Due to the sensitive nature of the content, some of the language in this video may be substituted to avoid suppression from YouTube's algorithm.
We are not a fan base, we are a cult!
Are you ready to get mad with me? Because I'm already there. I've gotten many requests to talk about this Dahvie Vanity person.
Good day, my name is Dahvie Vanity from BOTDF.
Although mostly known for his music in the group Blood on the Dance Floor, Dahvie Vanity has now become a name synonymous to someone who is predatory towards teenage girls. Oh.
Hi, I'm Dahvie. I'm Ellie. And we're partying at Warped Tour 2011. And we're gonna have sex!
Oh boy, we've got a lot to get through tonight. And I'll be honest, at first I was hesitant because, you know, there's plenty other YouTubers already covering him, but once you dig into this man and the things he's gotten away with for so long, I figured, you know what, another voice can't hurt. So here we go, Avenger Edwins generation checking in for duty. This video aims to be different than others as it will focus on the man's openly documented behaviors and some of his responses. Now before Dahvie was on stage playing concerts and demanding for his fans to throw their bras on stage.
Yes! Give me your bras right now, give me all your bras. I want them all. Give me your bras right now! I want your bras. You see this thing? Give them to me right the f now. Don't be a prude. Don't be a prude. Give me that Hello Kitty. Give me that Hello Kitty. I want it.
Really? Hello Kitty? And before Dahvie would shamelessly kiss his underage fans, and even before he was on Warped Tour racking up accusations of sexual assault, Dahvie called himself the elite hair god on MySpace. Y'all remember MySpace, right? I mean, I know to some of you it might sound like some sort of urban legend of a social networking website, but according to my YouTube analytics, a lot of you guys might remember those good old notifications. Now the reason why I bring up MySpace is because Dahvie Vanity wasn't your typical celebrity. He was what was considered a MySpace celebrity. And in this era, a lot of these MySpace musicians would make this, I'm sorry, this is my personal opinion, but horrible music. Music like Blood on the Dance Floor sounded to me like broken video games. And with lyrics like "Can't stop the tickles, they call me Dr. Giggles, it's O-O-O off the chisel, for shizzle dizzle, I'm banging with the B-O-T-O dizzle with whiffles, cause I dribble like I'm rubbing on nipples, gotta get out the pickle, make it rain with the ripples, let my candy rum trickle, get you buzzed with double triples, getting head in rentals, avoiding the parentals, this is ghetto plain and simple with the downbeat tempo." Now this to me just sounds like a bunch of words that rhyme, but Take note of that, avoiding the parentals. This dude's been leaving a crumb trail since he started doing music. I mean, this song is from 2008. Also, I'm sorry for having to read all that. I felt like my brain was breaking as I was doing it. Dahvie made 2 videos in which he responded to many of the accusations made against him. So let's start with the first one.
So the awful rumors began back in 2009. I played a show, and after the show I had relations with a woman, and after I had relations with a woman, she seemed to have underlying mental issues. Next thing you know, I'm being arrested by police.
Wait, what? So Dahvie had relations with a woman who seemed to have underlying mental issues, and next thing he knows he was being arrested? I'm pretty sure hooking up with someone with mental issues is not a crime.
I go down to the police station, I tell my side of the story, she takes her kit, she fails her kit, they prove my innocence. I was never charged with a crime. You can look up my name on public records, Jesus Torres.
So why were you arrested if you didn't commit a crime? Because you hooked up with a woman that seemed to have underlying mental issues? Bro, what? I feel like we're missing some key details. And you know what? He brings it up in the following video, so we'll get back to this. Dahvie goes on to acknowledge that his music is very sexual and graphic in nature, but reminds people that his albums have parental advisory warnings and his music is meant for adults. Good one.
His music is not intended for children. It is for audience that are mature, that are 18 and older. Now, if somebody younger listens to it, that's not our fault. That's their choice to listen to it. And it's not that we purposely or secretly try to gear our music towards a younger audience. We actually gear our music for an older audience, so that doesn't really make any sense.
Did he really say that? Dahvie, did I hear that right? You gear your music towards an older audience? No, honey, no. Let's go over this again.
We actually gear our music for an older audience, so...
This song is called Innocent High, and some of the words say, "Don't need detention, I'm the snitch. After school, make me your..." In the hall, flash your tits. Behind the desk, suck my dick. Today's lesson plan is how to give a rim job. Bury my face in your ass and beat me till your cock throbs? What? What does that even mean? What does that mean? Seesaw, seesaw, slide my face up and down on the desk by lockers. F me on the playground. Yeah, mature audiences, huh? Teacher, 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 show me your... Let me hear the actual song here. What? How does this go? You're kidding me. Ring the school bell. It's time for recess! Dude, this is garbage. Take off my pants and make me start to bust? Teacher, 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 I'm being a dirty whore! Like, it seems like I'm mocking the song, but that's how he's saying it. Wow, this is absolute garbage. Teacher, teacher, F me like my preacher, be so naughty, do my body, bruv.
If you do see somebody defaming me, please do not respond with hatred. Respond with wisdom.
Dahvie tells his fans not to respond to those who defame him with hatred, and in some of his interviews you also hear him preach about positivity and love.
Because love is my message, and if anybody hates that, then, you know, they're probably insecure with themselves, so they probably need help.
Yet he wrote a song about one of his accusers called You Done Goofed, in which he says, "My name and reputation won't be the target of a slut. I'll be on top of the world and you'll be cutting yourself to fuck." Quick reminder, this accuser is Damian Leonhardt, who at the time went by Jessie Slaughter and was around 10 or 11 years old.
My household has been torn. Ever since you guys started doing this, I haven't been able to do anything.
This is the same Jessie Slaughter that had a video go viral in which they are seen crying and their dad is yelling at the webcam saying, "You done goofed."
Will be caught and will be bound. And who said you're going to beat my daughter up? You will have to deal with the police, because you done goofed.
And if people think I don't know Dahvie, I freaking do know him. My mom has answered the phone for him, okay? And he's been calling. And once he called when I was in school, my mom answered the phone.
Which both members of Blood on the Dance Floor both went on to make a parody of.
Whoever will beat my daughter, you will have to deal with the police. You done goofed.
You are entitled to your opinion. You're entitled to inform your opinion. But you're not entitled to be ignorant.
Roger that. Now let's go to round two.
Basically, a girl accused me of rape. She took a rape kit, she failed a rape kit, and they proved my innocence.
So the accuser that Dahvie is referring to from 2009 has recently spoken up for the first time on Chris Hansen's show. She said she had just turned 17 and Dahvie took her away from the venue before the show began to an area where he would force oral on her. She said that afterwards, Dahvie walked her back to the venue and told her to clean up, so she wiped herself off and switched soda in her mouth, not realizing that later on, when the police was called, it would affect the results of the kit that she went on to take in the hospital. Dahvie's former bandmate told Huffington Post that after 2 songs, the band set was cut off and that's when the police took Dahvie away. The former bandmate also said that this was the incident that led him to quit the band.
People were like, people of my past band members and media outlets like BTV were saying that the girl was 15 and they threw in all these like false rumors about it and amplified it. Well, the girl was 17. When the girl was 15, you would see statutory rape on there. You don't see that on there at all. So clearly the girl was 17.
Maybe these articles he's referring to have been taken down because I was only able to find 2 blog posts that referred to the girl's age being 15. And even though Dahvie was 25 at the time, it looks like he did luck out because according to the victim herself, she was just recently 17 and the age of consent in Colorado is 17. On a lighter topic, let's hear Dahvie talk about how he asks for bras on stage.
Let me make this clear to everybody. When I was asking for those bras on stage, I was asking that from mature women, older women. I wasn't asking it from teenagers or any of that crazy shit. I was simply gearing that towards mature women.
You know, without any context, that explanation might actually work. Unfortunately for Dahvie, we've got the context. You know, he likes the Hello Kitty and...
This is not a bra. What is... Oh! Damn, a Final Fantasy t-shirt? I'm gonna suck your titties.
Looking back at that, I wish I would have said that at the time.
Dahvie goes on to say that he wishes he clarified that he only wanted bras from older women. Unfortunately, he was on drugs and drunk. So he also says he doesn't blame it on that.
I was getting drunk. And again, that's not an excuse for my actions. And, you know, I am suffering for those actions that I've done today. But I'm here to let everyone know that, you know, hey, I fucked up. I did that. I'm sorry.
Hey, I fucked up. I did that. I'm sorry. The venue was dark. I really did think it was older women throwing their video game t-shirts and Hello Kitty bras at me. I mean, my music is for mature audiences. There's a little sticker on the CD, you know? Just because the lyrics are about high school and... Oh God, this is not going well.
I want to
I want to go into a tweet that Jeffree Star posted about me.
Dahvie also addresses tweets from Jeffree Star in which Jeffree is seen saying that he saw Dahvie bring underage girls to his hotel room.
The night before Jeffree posted that tweet, I went on stage and I said some shit about Jeffree. He was really upset about that. Of course, everyone knows when you piss off Jeffree Star or any, shit with Jeffree, he gets pretty vile. He gets pretty angry and he'll tweet some up shit.
Now obviously to say that you saw something 100% illegal happen is a really big claim. As a lot of you may know, Jeffree Star has gone on to Chris Hansen's show and admitted that he just lied about it.
So yes, I tweeted out a lot of things. Did I ever see an actual crime? Absolutely not.
In 2011, he went on my tour bus at Warped Tour. He apologized for his actions. I forgave him.
We all get over the past. Everything with Blood on the Dance Floor Music and I is great. Stop the negativity and smile.
So this is one of those instances that I'm inclined to believe that Dahvie might be telling the truth about Jeffree. And it's so unfortunate. You know what's so unfortunate is that Chris has no issue with what Jeffree said, You would think that someone that grills people that are predators would be like, hey, maybe don't claim you see something if you don't actually see something. But that's another video for another day. Or maybe 2 videos, one for each.
He's actually defended me on Twitter.
I keep hearing that there's a feud between Jeffree Star and Blood on the Dance Floor Music. Is there? What? Blood on the Dance Floor Music and I are 100% fine. Everyone needs to relax. I'm no part of any drama. I love my brother, Blood on the Dance Floor Music. His new album is out next week. Everyone better be getting it.
We baked cookies. We did a song called Poison Apple back in 2013.
All right, we just wrapped up Poison Apple. It's coming out spring break around March 8th.
Get ready. On the dance floor, Jeffree Star, we're back.
So clearly, we're cool.
I hate to say it, but I have no reason not to believe Dahvie in that he was friends with Jeffree at least up until 2014 when they were baking cookies. Dahvie then says people harass venues and practically get his shows cancelled, and that it breaks his heart because his fans suffer.
The kids are the ones that suffer, the fans do. Now, do I make music for kids or teenagers? No.
And Homeboy can say that his music is meant for adults, but tell me why he calls parents on the phone during concerts and says stuff like this.
Your daughter's getting raped by zombies. You want to hear them? Yeah, and I cummed in her mouth.
I never asked for kids to come to my show or do that. Clearly, there's a parental advisory warning on my CDs.
So why not make your shows be 18 and up? Problem solved. Why, even though you acknowledge that younger people, teenagers, go to your shows, why do you insist on showing them your butt?
I know super butthole style. Check it out. Super butthole style.
When I play sexting, I can't look at people in the face or look at them in the eye if they're younger because it's just weird.
It didn't take me too long to find out that not only would you look at your audience when you performed your song Sexting, but in this video you put on a fan SpongeBob hat and you sing this. Then once the final chorus begins to kick in, you literally hold a fan's hand. But what's wrong with this song Sexting featuring Jeffree Star? It's just another song, obviously meant for adults. I mean, look at the lyrics. He says, she's texting if she should swallow. Hells yeah, go for more. Parents banging down the door. Oh no. Caught with my pants down. Now I gotta leave this town. Wait a second. This is for adults?
Do I gear my music towards a younger audience? No, I don't. And I can't help who listens to my music or who comes to our shows.
Maybe you can't help who comes to your shows, but you know what you can help is grinding on blatantly underage fans? That's kind of weird. No? No? There's also a clip in which both Dahvie and his former bandmate, JayyVon Monroe, are hanging out outside the tour bus with a bunch of, obviously, young fans.
Video?
Yeah. Video.
Oh my god. Are we gonna make a porn hour or something?
Yes. Yes, please. I can do this.
My porn star name is Fire Street.
Okay.
And at one point, Jay tells a suspicious story about a mother looking for her 15-year-old daughter.
Oh my god, I have the craziest story to tell you.
Girl, what happened?
It was crazy.
This woman, I just got on the bus and I was like fixing myself.
and like some cop knocks on the bus. I'm like, who the fuck is that? So I open the door and it's his mom, and she's like, my daughter's in there, and I was like, the fuck she is? I just got on this bus, ain't nobody in here. Someone had to unlock it for me. And she was like, well, one of the security guards told me that Dahvie and my 15-year-old daughter just walked back to the bus. I was like, bitch, you're bullshit. Her kid comes around the corner, she's like, oh, she's right there. Dahvie's right there. I was like, ah, thank you. Throw that bitch.
Where's that mother? Let's
Back her.
beat that bitch. Kill it.
Oh, hi.
She wish I was fucking her. She wishes.
Knowing what we know now, this footage is pretty concerning, so I reached out to Jay because he's no longer in the band and asked him if he could provide any further context to this clip, and this is what he had to say. Thank you for reaching out. I do recall that event. I was unwinding after a show when I get a knock on the door from a grown woman angrily accusing me of holding her child hostage. Now, knowing the facts and truthful allegations against Dahvie Vanity, I would have done the same thing as a worried parent. When touring, the bus is our home, and I reacted out of anger towards her, which I fully realize as an adult is not the way I should have handled it. I was very young and very mouthy because I felt like the world was out to get me. I haven't seen the clip personally, but I recall that night very well because of the personal struggle I was having that particular day, and I will state that the girl in question was not on the bus. I hope this adds some clarity to your story. I'm by no means trying to defend my 20-year-old self or my actions. However, I think every piece of the story is important, even if it's embarrassing to myself. But thank you for respecting me enough to touch base on it, and I hope your video can contribute to the ultimate goal of putting this dude away. Jay was a fan of Blood on the Dance Floor for 2 years before Dahvie ultimately asked him to join the band in 2009 on Jay's 18th birthday. Jay left the band in 2016 and later went onto Facebook to share some of the details of how Dahvie treated him behind the scenes. Jay explained that not only were there many creative differences, but Dahvie also kept him from contacting his own family, manipulated him to dislike whoever he disliked, refused to pay him, and instead would take care of all of his bills, which made Jay feel like Dahvie was his caretaker, and towards the end withheld Jay from getting medical help shortly after being diagnosed with HIV.
No one's ever complained about us on these shows that it's ever been a dangerous environment or anything like that. Everyone feels safe.
No one's ever complained about you in your shows? Excuse me, Ash Costello from New Year's Day would like to have a word. New Year's Day announced on Facebook that they were asked to leave a tour with Blood on the Dance Floor because they stood up to bullying and abuse, further saying that they didn't want to associate with this kind of behavior. And Dahvie actually ended up responding to the post on Facebook and said that the main reason why the band was removed from the tour was because of the false rumors that they were spreading. New Year's Day made a couple comments in response, also saying, "Please do not force me to go public with details." A couple months go by and boom, Ash Costello drops a huge Tumblr post addressing quite a few details. She said, "I have never met a bigger bully in my life. I have never felt so uncomfortable. Showing your butt to kids, having kids grab your dick on stage, telling 12-year-olds you're gonna come on their faces, making derogatory comments to me on stage, hitting fans on the head with equipment, telling my friends they are band whores on stage because they won't say into the mic his cum tastes good, watching the cops get called on tour because he was with someone under the age limit, that is just a tiny portion of what I had to watch every night. Not to mention what was done to me and done to so many other girls." When Ash Costello spoke up, she said that she was reached out to by many girls also victimized by Dahvie. She filed a police report, but ultimately the case was not pursued due to jurisdictional issues.
There were jurisdictional issues because they would have to work with every police department in every state, and they would need the victims. They said, I can't speak for the victims. Like, you can give us all this evidence, but it basically doesn't help us if it's not the victims coming forward themselves. And like I said, most of them, I couldn't even get their parents to get them down to the police station to make a report.
Which, by the way, I hate to bring up Jeffree Star again, I swear this is the last time, but in his interview with Chris Hansen, he stated that he regretted bringing Blood on the Dance Floor on his tour, when in reality, this tour that New Year's Day was on and Jeffree Star was on was Blood on the Dance Floor's tour, meaning that they were the headliners.
He's the bigger name on tour, is that fair to say?
Yeah, he was the headlining act.
Putting them on that last tour of mine was one of the biggest regrets that I'll have, but I can't take it back.
Just another lie from Jeffree Star. But what's new, right?
You look like you have autism, you Down syndrome ass bitch.
You know, I even check IDs. I literally, any person I hang out with after a show, I check their ID. If they're 18, I hang out with them. If they're younger than 18, I'm like, bye, Felicia.
There's no readily available corroboration to Dahvie actually checking IDs of fans before hanging out with them. However, there is an immense amount of former fans saying that they hung out with him when they were underage. And I don't mean this in the nice meet your favorite band type of way either. Aside from the Huffington Post reporting 21 accusers, there have been YouTubers interviewing a number of victims. I myself recently did a live stream discussing this topic and received a message from a girl after the show talking about her experience with Dahvie, which just goes to show the prevalence of this issue, because at the time I didn't have any plans of doing a video on this topic. I'm showing her messages on screen, but to summarize the story, she went outside and she was smoking cigarettes, and Dahvie came around and asked her how old she was. She said she was 14, and he said, "Oh, you look older, you talk really mature," and then said, "It's because you're in your cupcake phase." This was back in 2012, and really that was the extent of the experience, but that's not what makes it creepy. What makes it creepy is that she posted a picture of herself on Facebook and tagged the location, which was the venue The Rock in Tucson. And by tagging that location, Dahvie Vanity used Facebook to message her the same night. She asked not to be named, but she did send me a screen recording of the Facebook conversation, and it starts off with him saying, "Thank you for coming to the show tonight." Then he immediately asked for her phone number, which she did not respond because according to her friend suggested for her not to. Good suggestion. He sent her another message the next morning and said, "We should hang out sometime." And the next day, "Hi." 26 minutes later, "What are you doing tonight?" The girl replied and said, "I'm probably just gonna sit at home. What about you?" And he said, "We should chill." And that was the end of that conversation. Which, unlike Dahvie, I actually asked for this girl's ID to verify her story, and it checks out. She was born in 98 and the concert was in 2012, which does place her at being 14. But why are we talking about this now? It seems like for the first time, Dahvie's survivors have been now speaking up with more power than ever before. Because for so long, these women were unheard or simply unable to speak up. Many of these women were teenage girls, and many of these teenage girls were intimidated by his power and celebrity. And not just by the implication of fame either. Dahvie carried a very aggressive and confrontational attitude. As mentioned before, he dedicated an entire song to his preteen accuser. Dahvie also has a song called Revenge Porn, where the lyrics literally threaten to post a girl's intimate photos online. Being a teenage victim of someone who writes this kind of music definitely could be intimidating. And the most important reason to speak out on this is that he is still preying on teenage girls. He uses Instagram to attract a whole new audience because his Instagram tag used to be official BOTDF, Blood on the Dance Floor. However, he's recently rebranded to Dark Arts Official. The whole page is basically just merchandise, his cat, and himself. But he's also got 125,000 followers from back in the day when he was relevant. And if you look at his comment section, you'll notice that there's no comments calling him out. And that's because he restricts the comments, so you can't post a comment unless you follow him. And he's got quite a range of words also restricted from the comments. So even if you try to call him out and try to get creative by calling him, say, a kitty diddler, he's on top of it. That comment will not show up. He keeps his comments clean to block off the reality that unsuspecting girls may not be aware of. And this keeps an image that he is not who he used to be. I mean, he even looks different than he used to look. What? This is so creepy. How does he somehow look younger than he did 10 years ago? No joke, this dude is 35, turning 36, and this is what he looked like in 2010 at 25. 10,048 posts? Who posts this much? This dude be living on Instagram. I was actually so pleased when I heard Ash Costello share this sentiment on Chris Hansen's show.
Because I've actually talked to some of the original crew, and they don't want anything to do with it. And like I said, a message to the viewers to try to understand their position of why maybe they've stayed quiet until now, and hopefully encourage them to talk.
Because I think it's something that people don't consider, you know. I mean, it is nerve-wracking to speak up about something like this, you know, like, oh, I heard something, because then people naturally think, oh, they're gonna think that I want to protect them, when really I was just trying to do my job, you know, something along those lines, you know. There's no requirement to make a YouTube video or to be interviewed by Chris Hansen if you have information on Jesus Torres. This is a serious issue, and I know some people that are in touch with the FBI because they're finally taking it seriously. This video took me about 2 weeks to research, organize, film, and edit, and maybe you can tell in the growth of my facial hair from the beginning until now, maybe even my irregular hair, but it was just such a heavy topic, and I felt like even though I covered so much, I only touched on so much because there's just so many rabbit holes and so many factors to this entire person. I wanted to be like the best comprehensive video about this topic as I possibly could make, you know? I want to thank you guys for your patience on this channel. I know it's taken a bit of a standstill, but I promise more content to come, including a follow-up on this story, so keep an eye out for that in the next coming days. Also subscribe with notifications if you haven't subscribed, because I'm also going to be doing live streams, which those don't stay on the channel, so if you miss it, you miss it. Unless it's a really good live show that I have to edit down and I put on my second channel, or you go to my Patreon. We'll see. Just subscribe with notifications, and hopefully you're not too busy and you can catch the live stream. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you haven't already, and congratulations for making it all the way to the end of this video. I can't finish it. Congratulations for making it all the way to the end of this video. Oh, I did it right there. Alright, we'll see you soon.